Well, like a lot of things, the president has made it very clear that he's not going to let China off the hook for their recent actions regarding Hong Kong. More than 300 people in Hong Kong were arrested for protesting Beijing's recent moves. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, though, tweeted, "Today I reported to Congress that Hong Kong is no longer autonomous from China, given facts on the ground. The United States stands with the people of Hong Kong." Well, yesterday, the House China Task Force, we talked about this before, it met. And here to tell us about that is a leader of the China Task Force, Republican Congressman from Virginia, Denver Riggleman. Congressman, welcome back to the show.
Hey, it's great to see you, Sean. Thanks for having me.
The beauty of you is that you're just not someone on the task force. You've got a real background in this. You served as an Air Force intelligence agent. You served as a DoD consultant on cyber intelligence, on emerging threats. So what have you seen and what actions have the task force talked about and are ready to take in your recent discussions?
Sean, they made me co-chair on the technology and the national defense pillars. What we're looking at is every single gap that China might have an advantage over us or another type of technology gap where we can look 5 to 10 years in the future and address those needs right now. And I was listening to you at the beginning of this, and we have to admit, all of us have to be realistic that the one government, two systems, it's over, right? It's one government, one system, and the takeover of Hong Kong should be a wake-up call to everybody that China really is looking at us as sort of a hostile coexistence partner, not as somebody they want to deal with on the world stage in a transparent way. So we're looking at all the technology gaps we have, but also policy gaps on the China Task Force going forward, and a partner that just can't be trusted based on what they did in Hong Kong and what they're even doing on the China-India border right now. There's a lot going on, Sean.
So, we've talked about this task force in the past. Have you started to meet with folks in the White House, in the administration, to coordinate the strategy?
I can't talk too much about it, but we certainly have had a lot of meetings with people, on the White House staff and things like that. But strategy is there. And I got to tell you, when you talk to some of the individuals that are supporting you in the task force, it's very impressive. As we go forward, we just have to make sure that we're doing the right thing. We're not looking at, people to be, sort of being too aggressive or be enemies. What we're trying to do is say, listen, if you're not going to treat us fairly, if you're going to use COVID-19 as an excuse to do some of the things you're doing, like in Hong Kong, like in some of these border areas, we have to take action in a positive way for the United States of America. So we've had some incredible discussions. But again, Sean, at some point, we have to be honest that the relationship between us and China just isn't good right now, and we have to do something about it.
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, that's clearly the case. The thing that's interesting to your point is we've got several issues, right? We've got all the stuff that's being manufactured over there. They got what they're telling us and what they're not. But then we've got this issue of Hong Kong right now, which is, I think they're using this period in time where we're dealing with COVID-19 to make this encroachment on Hong Kong. The big question for me, Congressman, is we've always told Hong Kong and Taiwan, we got your back. But what's going to happen if they take this a little too far? Are we going to, as a government, be willing to intervene?
Well, you're spot on. And I think what we have right now is that when you look at Hong Kong right now, what's going on there.
All right. Well, I think we lost the congressman. Who knows? Maybe the Chinese already hacked in. They didn't like what he was saying and doing. But hopefully we are trying to get him back. There's obviously, as I was saying, a lot to get to on this because we've been talking about a lot with respect to what we import from China right now, whether it's our PPE or all the manufacturing goods that are over there. But there is this other problem. We have a strategic national discussion that has to happen about what will we do as a country if and when China goes over the top and tries to take over Taiwan, or in this case, take over Hong Kong way before it was supposed to. I mean, there's a lot of big issues with respect to China that we've got to deal with. And then you've got all of the technology transfers that are happening between Huawei and TikTok. Lindsay, we've talked about this for show after show after show. And the funny part is you start unpacking this and there's more and more issues that we have.
Yeah, there definitely are more and more issues, and they even pertain to Joe Biden as well. And his problem with China, it seems like it won't go away. His popularity among his Democrat base appears to be crumbling right now. A new St. Pete's poll in Florida shows the presumptive Democratic nominee lead over President Trump has fallen to just 1% in Florida. And get this, more than a third of Democrats in a Zogby poll want Biden replaced. Interesting. And Dick Morris reports that Penn University said Biden got $900,000, and most of the money came from China. For more, we welcome political consultant and friend of the show, Dick Morris. Dick, welcome. So good to see you.
Good to be here, Lindsay.
All right, Dick, there's a few things in all of that. Number one, $900,000 from the University of Pennsylvania for a guy who likes to be called, working class Joe from Delaware that rides the Amtrak every day. That in itself, to me, is an issue that should be hit over and over and over again. But then you bring up this interesting aspect that, some of the money may have come from China. So walk me through both of those, because I want to know what you think politically, the first part, but then how do you make the assertion that it may or may not have come from China?
Well, the facts are that in 2018, Joe Biden set up the Penn Center, or the Biden Center for Diplomacy and Global Engagement at the University of Pennsylvania. And in 2019, he received $900,000 from them. That was personal money that he got. Now, the question also is the source of the money. I think you're right, Sean, that the amount is really a political issue. But the deeper one is where it came from. From 2016 to 2018, China gave about $13 million to Penn. From 2019, that spiked to $61 million. And the Biden Center won't say how much money it got from China. And we don't know how much Penn allocated to the Biden Center.
How does this? I don't. Dick, just one moment. That's a lot of money. How is the press? How are opposition researchers in politics not uncovering this? I mean, to me, when we were talking about this leading up to the show, you threw out that number. I'm going, I've run a lot of political campaigns. I would be using this over and over again, whacking this guy for taking $900,000 from the University of Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Well, it just came to light. I just saw it a few days ago. Apparently, the Chinese give a huge amount of money to the University of Pennsylvania and upped their contribution enormously once the Biden Center was established. And the University of Pennsylvania fully funds the Biden Center. So we don't know how much of the money that China gave ended up in the Biden Center, much less in Biden's pocket. But when you add a combination of that $900,000 from the Biden Center to the $1.5 billion that Hunter Biden got from the Bank of China for his hedge fund after he visited China on Air Force Two with the vice president at the time, you really have the question of, did China bribe Joe Biden? And will that influence his conduct vis-a-vis China? It's like the Clinton Foundation, really, but writ large.
Well, Dick, Pennsylvania, obviously a swing state. Is this going to move the needle at all there for them? Are people interested that this really isn't a good look for Joe Biden?
Well, I'm not sure it's regionalized to Pennsylvania, but yeah, I think it's going to be an issue. I think that the problem right now that the Trump campaign faces vis-a-vis Biden is this kind of feeling that we're not in the campaign yet. We're still in the administration because of the virus, because now of the Minneapolis problems, and we're not really focused on Trump versus Biden yet. We're focused on Trump. And therefore, the negatives on Biden, while they accumulate, don't immediately impact the trial heat head-to-heads. But the number of people that say that he's dysfunctional, the number that say that he sexually molested people, and the number that say that he's compromised with China now increases with each poll. And I think that's going to have a big impact when people finally focus on the idea that Biden could be president.
Lindsay noted this.
Had a presidential candidate whose mental ability was questioned going into the campaign, ever.
Yeah. I mean, Lindsay noted this in the opening of the segment, but you've got a pretty high number of Democrats that don't seem to be very excited that Joe Biden is their nominee. And that enthusiasm gap could, I think, be a big problem going down the stretch.
Yeah, I think it'd be huge. I think that the Democratic discontent with Biden is enormous. Let's remember, he lost the Democratic primaries. Then he was salvaged at the last minute by Clyburn's endorsement in the South Carolina primary. And in 1 week, a panic swept the Democratic Party that Sanders would be the candidate. So they voted for the un-Sanders, whose name happened to be Joe Biden. But as evidence comes out that this guy can't put together a coherent English sentence, there really is a question as to whether he's fit to be president. It's why the unusual focus on the vice presidency, because many people don't expect him to survive the term.
Well, we'll see when he announces that and if he announces that early. Dick, it's always good to have you. Thank you for sharing your insights with us. Well, up next, President Trump tries to help, and the left isn't happy about it. We'll look at a partisan politics with our company when we return.